My name is Willie Farrell. I'm a comedian, and it's an honor for me to be able to MC this today. And I think the reason is that Gent and I went all the way back to when he started in comedy, and I knew him back then, but I think personally, I think it's just because I'm the only one with a suit on. But anyway, we're all gathered here today because of one man, and whether you're a fan, a friend, or family, we're here because of J. Medicine Hat, who laid down his microphone August 13th, 2012. So please sit back and enjoy the many faces of J. Medicine Hat. We open today's celebration with a Native American song of remembrance, followed by a prayer in Lakota by Moody Plentywounds.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to thank, the family for, asking me to do this prayer, for Jay. And, it's an honor that, they asked me to do this. And, in our culture, when they ask us to do something, we just do it without asking. And, one of the things that, I guess I remember about Jay, the last email he had sent me was, he said when he came, back into Omaha, he wanted to go to a sweat lodge and pray, and, that kind of was like, one of the last things that we had actual contact together, so I was kind of looking forward that when he came back that, we go to sweat and pray. So, that's one of the good memories I guess I got of him, for the last things. But with this, the prayer, I want to pray in I usually pray in my language. And so with that, I was going to say a prayer for the family, for healing, that, the Creator will, wipe your tears. And, that Jay's in a good place, and maybe he will look down upon us today and see that, there's friends, relatives, here in this memorial. So with that, I'm going to say a prayer. If you could just stand, I would, appreciate that. That's Tukashla Dewa Kataka, Lea Petuki Wopilai Chiche. Matuenishni na matagnishni ash unshia hoche na wachekechela wakathaka. Leapetuki kholawa tukashla makake ayushta he tukashla tita keki ocheke wanjik akmashib chale unchise unshia nitroka naji na wachewake la wakathaka. Leapetuki tukashla tita keki ushu chakla oichaki na wangu chakwa tukashla. Ishtawi chapa kita wakathaka. Chuse treachika kijak dishni. Asha yok piak de isha chi tukashla machata yok pia tukashla. Apetukile leonchuse wachekiche na leonchuse hoche chi 20 samia wakana washakishni. Ihachchi walaka below wakathaka. Chanku wanji ukithoka egna kikte na tita ki ya ishtawi chapa kinta mani yok te stoini dina ektu jak tishni tukashla kiksuya mani uktelo le apetuki wokiksia wanji uha below tukashla wichasha he tukashla oyateki wichak at tukashla nisha tuktel isha chante washte wichayu tukashla ena hel apetuk lel hel hiuna isha tukashla kiksuya hi below wakathaka Chaleon chusale apetuki ushia hoche na ushia wacheki chelo takuyase. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very, very beautiful, very powerful. We are honored to have Jen's 3 daughters with us, and they're going to say some words about their dad, Jenny, Kelsey, and Lauren Monk.
Hello, I'm Jay's middle daughter, Kelsey, and I'd like to start by saying thank you all for being here today. This experience has been quite overwhelming for me. It has been one of the most painful and difficult times that I've had to face. I lost someone that I loved so much, someone I looked up to, and someone who I admired. But the pain I feel has been replaced with the love and support that has been shown to me by all of you and all the other people that were touched by my dad throughout his life. All your kind words, thoughtful gestures, and funny stories that have been shared really made this process a lot easier for me, and for that, I am truly thankful. I'm sure that he is beside himself right now at the amount of people and fans that came forward to celebrate and commemorate his life. I'm also thankful that I had such a loving father who always went out of his way to show my sisters and I how much we meant to him. Although he was on the road often and we were unable to spend a lot of quality time with him, the time we did share was always fun and memorable. My dad was a very driven man. He strived nonstop to provide for his family and worked very hard at what he loved to do, and that was to make the world a better place by bringing laughter to those around him. We are here today to honor and reminisce the incredible life of my father, and let me tell you, he had one hell of a ride. Most of you know him as Jay, but to me, he was Dad. His birth name was Gent, so just so you all know, and it fit just right because he was quite the gentleman. He captivated us all with his sharp wit, phenomenal humor, and big heart. His impact on our lives and all our cherished memories of him will remain in our hearts forever. My dad was the hardest working man I ever knew. I learned early on in my life to never give him the impression that I was bored or restless. He would say to me, "Kelsey, if you don't have anything better to do, get your ass outside and pick up sticks." So several hours of my life has been devoted to picking up sticks, pine cones, walnuts, and other yardly nuisances. I am, however, thankful that he instilled in me phenomenal worth ethics and how to have a sense of pride and confidence when you give it your all each and every day. He always told me his father Earl taught him the importance of working hard in life to achieve success, and in my eyes, my dad is a prime example of that. He proved to us all that he had exactly what it took to be successful. He went from pushing cattle and cleaning offices part-time to taking a chance at open mic a couple nights a week in Sioux City, Iowa. From there, he continued to give it his all and never gave up. Now, standing here in front of all of you, I am proud to say that my dad made it all the way to the top, and he took them all. My dad used to say to me while we were working together on his endless amount of projects that never got done, "Kelsey, look at all this. I'm at a point in my life where I can have anything I want. Anything is possible. I have the greatest gig ever. I want you to know, honey, that what you want in life is all within grasp. You are part of me. You have what I have inside you. Once you find it, never give up. With a little persistence and hard work, you'll be successful at whatever you put your mind to." Then he would go on to say, "Man, I'm sure glad I took that chance with comedy because it sure in hell beats cutting cow assholes out for a living." My dad devoted many hours of his life washing, waxing, and worshiping his beloved cars and motorcycle. He spent more time taking care of them than actual driving or riding. He is the only guy I knew that waxed his tractor on a regular basis. However, he did not care too much about abiding by the laws and regulations when operating a motor vehicle. And throughout his lifetime, he racked up thousands in fines and tickets. As a matter of fact, he just recently acquired a valid driver's license. Yes, my father had a mean lead foot. One time he had just left the gas station with an ice cream cone because he so cherished that soft serve bliss. Well, he started flying down the highway, probably going about 80, 85, and he got pulled over. The cop said, "Sir, do you know why I pulled you over?" And my dad looked at him and said, "Because I got this big-ass ice cream cone and you want a lick?" Needless to say, he got a hefty fine that day. There's thousands of stories that I could share with you, but I'm my father's daughter, and if you give me an hour, I would go an hour and a half. But the most important thing I wanted you guys to know is that my father so adored his fans, and without all of your support and the amazing Hathead followers, he would not have been so successful and wouldn't have had so many happy hours on stage doing what he loved to do. His humor genuinely touched thousands, and on his behalf, I would just like to say thank you because I know he didn't get the chance to tell you that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Monk. I'm Jay's oldest daughter. About a month and a half ago, my two sisters and I somehow managed to find a day in our schedules that we could all get together. We called my dad, and he rearranged his flight to fly into Omaha a day ahead of schedule so we could all meet up and spend the day together. Each of us girls had written a letter telling Daddy how much we missed him, how much we loved him, and each of us expressed to him that it was okay to slow down and go a little bit easier on himself. He had written us a letter too, and one by one we all read our letters and then looked through family photos that meant something to all of us. There were no outside distractions. Not one of us had somewhere else to be. Not one of us had to go to work. The whole day was ours. We laughed, we cried, and we laughed some more. It was a beautiful day. Early the next morning, I had to get back home to Sioux City, and I went to give Daddy a hug goodbye. When I went to pull away, he held me longer and told me thank you for everything and that it meant so much to him. That is the last time we saw our dad. My sisters and I are so grateful that we have that memory forever, and we can let Daddy go fully knowing that there was nothing left unsaid. You are all here because you love Jay Medicine Hat, the entertainer. You all know that he loved the stage, and he most genuinely loved to make people smile. He had the gift of bringing laughter to everyone he met. He was always on, always telling jokes, always giving somebody a hard time, and always raising eyebrows. There was also a serious side to my dad that many did not know, except those that were closest to him. My dad became a father his junior year of high school. He married my mother and worked a full-time job at a local slaughterhouse, provided for his family, and still managed to graduate from high school. In 1981, his father, Earl Monk, passed away at the age of 42. My grandfather was my daddy's hero, and it was so hard on him. 2 years later, my brother Cody Sim Monk was born. There were complications, and Cody died 2 months later. It was so hard on my family. My daddy was absolutely heartbroken. He carried the pain with him until his last day. After Cody passed away, there wasn't much to laugh about. My dad needed an escape, and that's when he discovered comedy. He soon realized that he had what it took, and making people laugh healed the pain and loss that he himself was suffering from. My dad was a hard worker, no doubt, but he always made time to play. Every summer when we were out of school, he would take us kids on the road with him. Our trips together were some of the best memories of my life. We went all over the country, staying in hotels and condos, city to city. We would get up early and visit museums, explore the sites, and try out every water park and swimming pool we could find. At night, Dad would head out to do his shows, and I would take care of my sisters, and the next day we would pack up and move on to the next town, the next show, and do it all over again. I have so many good memories. I could stand up here all day and try to tell them all to you, but I have to watch my time because I know that time is precious. My daddy lived a lot of life in 51 years because he fully understood that life is short. Last night, while standing on the balcony looking up at the night sky, I asked my dad what he would want me to say today. I felt that he wanted me to tell you all thank you for everything. So I would like to thank all of the loyal family, friends, and fans for showing up today. Thank you for coming out to the shows all these years. Thank you for all of your support, and thank you for loving my dad as much as we do. And I would like to give a special thank you to Colleen Quinn and the Omaha Funny Bone for always understanding that Jay Medicine Hat was not just an entertainer, but a father as well. You have always made us feel welcome and went out of your way to make sure that we were taken care of in Omaha. We have grown up with you guys, and we love you because of it. And finally, I would like to say thank you, Daddy, because I know you're listening. Thank you for always being there. Thank you for being a loving grandfather to Liberty. Thank you for making me smile. Thank you for all the sleepless nights and working so hard. I know you did it all for us, and most of all, Daddy, thank you for being you. I love you so very much.
I just want to say we love you, Daddy. Rest in peace.
It's beautiful. Many of you know how proud Jay was of his granddaughter, Libby, and she chose to sing a song to sing to Papa Gent. So, Libby, come on up, please.
Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would you be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven. Would you hold my hand if I saw you in heaven? Would you help me stand if I saw you in heaven? Night and day Time can break your heart. Have you begging, please? Begging, please. Beyond the door, there's peace, I'm sure, and I know there'll be no more tears in heaven. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would you be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven.
My, what poise. Holy, how old are you? You're 13? I'm gonna go home and punch my daughter. I swear to God, that would... Anyway, Jay touched the lives of many up-and-coming comics, and we have two here who consistently open for the hat. So please welcome Austin Anderson and Heather Jones.
Hi, I'm Heather Jones. I'm a comic, and I worked with Jay many times over the last couple of years. First, I think all of us in the audience, when you're at a memorial or a funeral or whatever you want to call this, you never know whether to clap and as people have gotten up and spoke, we've enjoyed clapping and interacting in that way. But the drummers and the singers that were up here today, and when you did your performance, I think we all held a collective breath because that was so amazing. And I think everybody wanted to just clap and yell. And it's like when you go to the orchestra or the symphony and you don't know whether you're supposed to clap or not. So I think everybody had that impetus, and everybody in the audience was, wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was wonderful. I've never been so nervous to speak in front of a group of people as I am right now with you guys. And part of that, I think, is the fact that it's a comic's natural inclination to try to turn anything sentimental into something funny or cynical. And the other part is that I know I haven't fully realized the impact that Jay had on my life and me as a comic and everything that he has taught me. He has taught me a lot, and I'm constantly reminded of his lessons, and I think that it's going to hit me probably 20 years down the line, and I'm going to really know how important he was. I know he was important, but I'm going to know why and how. And all I know right now is I feel it, and it's hard to express that. I do know that one thing he did teach me was the fact that it's okay not to be funny and to take a moment and be real and sentimental. He would do that during his performances and just take a moment to talk about a cool phone call he got from someone he admired. And then but he could switch that into something, segue it so quickly into something funny that it was seamless and it was real and it was genuine, and that was why he was so beloved, I think. A prime example of this was when he produced a video to support the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and he decided to play that before his shows around Thanksgiving and Christmas because he was trying to raise money for a toy drive. And it was the saddest, ridiculously saddest commercial ever it was, Austin, you had everything to do with this, and that was ridiculously sad. So screw you, because... And normally, the video that you saw before this began was what he played. Instead, he followed it up with this 10-minute, oh my gosh, I think a lot of you have seen it. And the room just got quiet, and the next person on stage was supposed to be me. And when it got over, he looked at me and went, now go be funny. And I was like, son of a bitch. Son of a... He got a sick appreciation out of that, but he was willing to sacrifice me, I guess, for raising some dough. When I got on and quickly referenced it and told him that he was like Sally Struthers, and nobody laughed harder than Jay, and he appreciated that. I think that's very apropos because today I had to speak after his granddaughter performed that beautiful song, and so I know he's up there going, go be funny, right after all of us are weeping and Austin's being a little bitch back here, but I'm so sorry. Earmuffs, Liberty, I apologize. He taught me that neuroses was okay. I think I have never met anyone more neurotic than Jay, and he matched my own neuroses, which if we were alone in the green room for more than 5 minutes, that could get interesting. It was like a Woody Allen movie and Inception all rolled into one. We would just like, whoa, what are you trying to say? 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 But he taught me that it was okay to have a little bit of neuroses. That made you care about what you were saying, and it made you care about what people thought. And that is the whole point of comedy, I think, is to care. And it's not just a soapbox to, tell jokes. It's you want to have some sort of impact beyond that, and leave people with something. And he definitely did that. He never coddled us, but he had a lot of patience for new comics. He had more patience with our material than we did sometimes, and would remind us to slow down, don't rush it, take your time, and you'll get there. And that was a wonderful lesson and gift. And I can't thank you enough. Generous, kind, patient. He was very real. And I'm so honored to have met his daughters because I see the strength of Jay in each and every one of you, as well as Liberty. You are pretty powerful, amazing women, and you're gonna kick some ass. So thank you. And next up is Austin.
Oh, all right. We were trying to find a picture of Jay, and I had known him friends with him for 8 years, and I couldn't find a picture of us just looking at a camera and smiling. Instead, I'm wearing a leotard with a friggin' box. And they told me that that's the picture they had. And so I'm like, well, I got to find a different picture. So I go through everything I have. I have like 11,000 photos. I cannot find a single one. The only other photo I have is another time I dressed up as like a weird character with gray hair and a mustache. So both times I just look like a total douche, and I don't have that photo. So if anyone's ever taken a photo of us, I would appreciate that. But oh man, I didn't know Jay as I didn't think of him as a comedian or a hypnotist. He was just like my friend, and I'm gonna miss him. I feel like he should be here. coming. I've done like 1,000 shows, never cried in front of an audience before, but there's a first for everything. But I just, I remember when I was a kid and I wanted to be a stand-up comic, and I would always go to the Funny Bone to see who was going to be there that week. I knew nothing about comedians, but his picture was always there. And the first time I got to open for him, I was like, this is awesome. And you don't remember, like, a lot of people that you meet. Like, it may be a handful, but I just remember meeting him, like, the first time. He just made me laugh. But one of the things that I just really appreciated, he was, he was a great guy, man. He really was. And he, dude, he was so honest, you know? Like, so many people in this world wear a mask, you know? And they hide who they are because they want to be accepted, but not him. He was just, that's who he was. He put it out there. If you didn't like it, then, you know, sorry, but sorry that you know, he wasn't your cup of tea, which he used to say all the time, so. So, he's going to be missed.
Jay touched a lot of people like that. You know, it's funny, I never got a chance to actually thank him for the one last thing he did for me, and it wasn't that long ago. It was probably 2-3 weeks ago. He had my ex-wife kicked out and banned from the Funny Bone for life. Swear to God. That's a friend right there. He didn't do it on his own. He had guys to help him, and these are the two guys we're talking about. These are the guys that always had his back when he was on stage. That's Vincent Raven and Eric Sounder, but we know him as Vinny and Hugo. Where you guys at? Come on up. Look at them. They still look like bouncers. They look like two scary-ass bookends, don't they?
I remember what pocket I put it in. I've had so much stuff trying to keep track of it.
Read some of this?
Yeah. Oh, wait. I think I found it. There we go. I've been a doorman at the Funny Bone at Village Point since it's moved out there for the past 8 years. And I felt that I've been one of Jay's go-to guys, and that's something that I always wore with a badge of honor. Something I always told everybody, all my friends and all my family, that if Jay Medicine Hat was in town, that I had to be there to run the sound for him. I've seen hundreds of shows, and you know, I can't pick out one of my favorite memories or from one favorite show because there's just too much. But the parts that I will remember the most are the parts that would happen before and after the shows, the behind-the-scenes stuff that not everybody got to see. You know, there were several days that I would come into work, I was in a bad mood, just had a rough day at work. And after talking with Jay, you know, it just all went away. You know, just laughing, talking, having a good time. It just, none of that stuff mattered, and I snapped right out of it. You know, and that's just the way Jay was. He was always talking and joking with everybody, the entire staff. He, you know, it wouldn't matter who you were, whether you were new, whether you'd been there forever. He was always going to mess with you. He was making us laugh. And at the end of the night, because he was such a caring person, he'd always worry if the servers had made enough money, if he had done a good enough job up on stage to get them the money, make the club the money that he was trying to help us do. And one of the neuroses that he, as Heather talked about, the many that he had, he could have an entire sold-out room, and if he saw one person sitting right there not having a good time, that was all he focused on. Didn't matter that he was making the entire room laugh. And I tell him time and time again, Jay, That's one person. There's 300 people that you've made have the best night of their life. Took him a while to get over it, but he eventually would. He loved coming to Omaha. Crowds were always great. He loved the entire staff. He knew that every single one of us store guys had his back. That way he didn't have to worry about the setup and the things that went on during the show to make sure that it would go the way he wanted it to. He knew he could depend on the staff to get everything done. We were always happy to see him show up, and we were always happy to see him go. Working a Medicine Hat show can be very stressful. But I know we're all going to miss that. One of my favorite memories of Jay, it was one night when me, Jay, and my wife Jennifer, who's been at the club as long as I have, it worked out where Reverend Horton Heat, a rockabilly band, happened to be in town. It's like the cosmos aligned, and he said, "We have to go." And we said, "Yes, we have to go." So one night, it was a Saturday night, as soon as that show got over, we wrapped everything up, hopped in the car, and headed down to Sokol. But of course, Jay couldn't drive, so I had to drive his rental car. And it was sleeting and snowing as we were going there, but we were going to get there. We made it down to Sokol, walked across the snowy street, got inside just before the band hit the stage. And we did a shot of Jack. We bought some t-shirts and enjoyed an awesome show. And one of the really cool parts was that after the show was over, Jay even got to, we hung around until everybody left, and the drummer was still on stage, and Jay went up and got to shake hands with the drummer and said, "I'm a local comedian, and we love your music," and that was really cool. I know it's something that was very special to us, and we're never going to forget it. Jay, we're going to miss you more than you could ever have imagined. You were always surprised every night at the people that would come out to the show. And I think we all weren't, because we knew how much everybody loved you. We all hope you're finally at peace. I'm going to miss you, my friend.
My name is Eric. Most of you that may know me probably know me as Hugo. Not really a funny story how I got that name, so I'm going to kind of stay out of that one. But if you've ever seen Lost, you have an idea of how that one came about. I started working with Jay my second week at the Funny Bone. I was so new that I still smelled like baby powder. I had really no clue what I was doing at a comedy club. Vinny was the one that trained me, and second week, Jay Medicine Hat, who, by the way, I had never heard of and was probably like one of 3 people in Omaha who had no idea who the guy was. And he says, "We have a hypnotist coming in. It's going to be great. You're going to work the stage. It's going to be fantastic time. Here's the 10 things that you need to know, and you have 15 seconds to learn them." And, then he goes through the thing. There's hand signals and stuff you have to know, and make sure this guy doesn't break his head, because he's probably going to break his head. And then in walks Jay, or who I thought was Jay, because he was an Indian guy and had long hair. Turns out I was right. Before we even get introduced, he breaks into, and some of you may have seen him do it, his little gimp walk. And he does that purely to get a rise out of you, see you smile, make you break character, which, we have to be up here and look all tough. And it worked, broke character immediately, and I realized this was going to be fantastic. I was going to have a really good time doing this. So there we are working. I get the pre-show prep. You have to put your finger in this place and then twist and pop and lock and do all this other sort of stuff that makes the show seem effortless, make it seem like everything is supposed to go the way that it's going. And we go and do it. And it was fantastic. After the first show, I knew that this was going to be a fantastic job, something that I would want to continue to do. And from the first show, I had the distinct pleasure of him asking for me to be his stage side security. Out of all the other fantastic doormen that we have had and do currently have, that was a favored position that I took very seriously. And really wish I still had the opportunity to do with him. Even after I transitioned back into the kitchen, they decided for whatever reason it was a better idea to pay me to play with knives and fire. I would still come out, we would work the rush. It would be like a tornado of clothes as I make my way up to the stage. And that's how it was. They were really very busy weeks. It's very difficult as far as most shows are concerned. Most part, you just sit there and listen and laugh. And drunk 40-year-old lady gets kicked out, and it's not a big deal. With Medicine Hat, it was truly an experience. The servers had to be on point. The kitchen had to be on their toes. The door, that was the hardest we worked, was during Medicine Hat, so you almost didn't feel bad about slacking off the rest of the time. One thing that both Vinny and I and the rest of the people at the Funny Bone had an opportunity to do that a lot of people don't is see the transition between the stage persona that is Jay Medicine Hat and the person that is Gent Monk. Obviously, a lot of what you see on stage is Jay. It's his personal attributes that come through. It's the person that he is that comes through. Some of those things are very hard to hide. But then there's a lot that is the performer that is Jay Medicine Hat. The persona that he had to have while on stage that made the whole thing work. If he wasn't the person that he is, the show would have been horrible. It would have been like Vinny hosting it. It just wouldn't have been that good. Vinny mentioned how he would hone in on one person. And it could have been the best show he had all week, but if that one person wasn't smiling enough or seemed like they were having a bad time, that would stay with him. It's important to note that he cared about the shows, and not as a matter of vanity, but really cared about the shows. Despite the fact he had done hundreds and hundreds, after each show, the first thought on his mind was how the show went. Did people have a good time? Did they enjoy themselves? Did they get their money's worth? He cared about what people thought. It mattered a lot to him. That's really, in my estimation, an important driving force in what he did. I'm going to try not to pull an Austin. I did watch Fried Green Tomatoes before I came here, so I'm a little broken up still. Just get tandied every time. Mortality is something that we all have to deal with, but prefer to not think about. We're faced with it every day. You get into a car and you don't wear a seatbelt. You read obituaries in the paper. It's there, but we like to pretend that it isn't. And ultimately, death is the price of life. And when it's my turn to pay that price, I hope that I've lived half as much as Jay Medicine Hat has. Thank you for your time.
I think that one person you're talking about that Jay couldn't make laugh, I think that might have been my ex-wife. I think that's where the problem started. I think that's where. I haven't seen Vinny that emotional since they ran out of cheese sticks the other night at the, I gotta be honest. Well, everybody that's a comic knows that Jay had a fairy godmother, and it was Colleen Quinn. And also, if Jay had a badass sister, it was CQ. She was a friend in business and in his life, Colleen Quinn.
Oh, good afternoon, all of you fun people. I had to put a few notes down because obviously the full life of this man is just too much to try to recall. In 1990, I met a skinny, funny comic with a mullet and an infectious laugh whose name was Gent Monk. He was very popular with his jokes about Iowa pork queens and a top 10 list of things you don't say to a cop, Like, I'm surprised you pulled me over. Isn't there a 3-for-1 sale at Dunkin' Donuts? Fun little things like that. Yes, he did improve as time went on. By 1994, Gent changed the direction of his comedy career by learning hypnosis and evolving into J. Medicine Hat. In May of that year, we tried an experiment at the Omaha Funny Bone, 3 weeks straight of his rock and roll hypno show, and the Medicine Hat legend was born. His raspy cackle filled the comedy clubs across the country. Jay became the most popular hypno comedy show in America. He never moved to LA or New York to pursue other levels because his family was here in the Midwest, and family meant everything to him. This hardworking, everyday man from Sioux City, Iowa, became the beloved J. Medicine Hat from Deadwood, South Dakota. With this persona, he became even more of a motorcycle lover, Jack Daniels drinking, smoking, tattooed, badass boy of comedy who was not shy about his demons. He worked hard at his craft, he traveled a lot, and was brutally honest, just as the others have mentioned, both on and off stage. Gent had a self-reflective sorrow that runs deep. The sadness of losing his father and baby son Cody haunted him, and he'd talk about that at great length when he was down and out. His return to Omaha every 6 weeks allowed him to see his 3 daughters whom he loved, Jenny, Kelsey, and Lauren. I remember a very cold night, as some of the others who are here, 12 years ago. Jay gets off stage exhausted, and he gets the call that Jenny has gone into labor. He is sitting there beside himself, and we know we can't let him drive. So we got the opening act to drive him through the snow so he could be there for the birth of Liberty, his granddaughter, and he was in love with another baby girl. Jay savored his 80 to 90 minutes on stage. He felt he was so safe there. It was his world, and all of his problems were put on hold. He loved his adopted comedy brothers and sisters very much, all those he entertained who we know were dubbed as hat heads. Jay was a compassionate, generous man. Over the years, his passion for the Pine Ridge Indians, not only for them, but he did charity shows for so many other groups. He loved coming back, couldn't wait to get on air with Todd and Tyler. For him, that was therapy that he felt he couldn't pay for. He would go up, typically comics would be on air with the guys 1 or 2 days a week. He would come in early, and as they will tell you, he might be there every day of the week. He had a lot to say, a lot to reveal, sometimes too much. Someone in the club, whether a patron or staff who needed some cash, always got a little money and a hug from Gent Monk. The road and the club hours take a toll. I see this week after week. And this compassionate man with a heart the size of Mount Rushmore ran out of time. No one can duplicate his charisma, his charm, his razor-sharp wit, and larger-than-life presence. No one. I can't think of a comic anywhere. After being with my friend Jay for about 1,300 shows, I've seen the many sides of Gent Monk. A father who loved and worried about his girls. A regular man who became friends with everyone he stood outside and smoked a cigarette with. He was the favorite radio guest of the TNT empire, a history buff who could give you obscure details about any American war. I mean, it was nauseating sometimes. And he was the unpredictable, best damn comedy hypnotist in America. Jay would be amazed at the outpouring of love and sadness across the country, absolutely blown away. At the end of every week, he'd say, "We beat 'em again, we beat 'em again." And I know he's still entertaining with some good Christian fun in the heavens right now, because as time ran out for our friend on this earth, he beat us all there. The poet W.H. Auden, I ran across this, and to me, this just spoke to me about my friend, my brother, J. Medicine Hat. Among those whom I like or admire, I can find no common denominators. But among those whom I love, I can. All of them made me laugh. Gent Monk, J. Medicine Hat, you made me laugh.
Damn it, Colleen. I wanted to say something funny, but that was too freaking good. Perfect. Well, those of you who knew Gent know he loved the History Channel, and he loved his Westerns. Any John Wayne movie was a must-see. So we got Billy McGuigan here, and with some thoughts about his friend Jay.
Thank you. You might look at me and go, how the hell would you know Jay? I don't have tattoos. I don't have a rockin' ponytail or anything like that. I actually met Gent 20 years ago in 1992. I was performing at the Funny Bone when I was in high school. And the feature act that night was this weird guy with a rockin' mullet, as Colleen mentioned. And I actually bumped into him in the bathroom. And I was like, hey, my name's Billy. I'm in high school. I'm really glad to be here. And he goes, thank you. He goes, I'm Gent Monk, fucker. And I remember the next day, I know I shouldn't have said that here, but screw it. And you see why we got along. I went to school the next day because it was like a Wednesday night, and I was like, I performed on stage last night, and this Indian guy opened for me, and he called me brother. And then a few years later, I was a doorman at the old Funny Bone on 114th and Dodge with my buddies over there. And my job then, in the early days, was to write down the name of all the horses that he couldn't remember. Thank you, with a clipboard. And I was like, because when I was in college, the guy, Jim Wand, who taught Jay how to go sleep. That's what I used to say to him, like, wow, you have the coolest job. You just say sleep and people pay you money. Jim Wand would remember things, and I remember I saw him in college, and he remembered everything. And I was like, oh, man. And it was like, no, man, fucker, your job is to write down all the names because I can't remember that shit. But in my career, Jay taught me several things. As I've now lived the life that he does, traveling all over the country, he taught me some very important things. One thing I'll always be grateful to Jay for is the fact that he helped in the birthing of my first child. I was at one of his shows. My wife was 8 months and a couple of days pregnant, and the baby wasn't coming out. So Colleen said, you should come see Jay tonight. I was like, awesome, we'll go see Jay. He hypnotized me and made my wife laugh so hard because I was a pregnant man who made a big black guy in the front row impregnate me named Dante, and he was a bastard. My wife laughed so hard, we had the baby the next day. Thank you for that, Jay. I also now put in my rider that the hotel I'm staying must have the History Channel. That was the second important thing. And when I was developing Rave On, the Buddy Holly show, we did it at the Funny Bone, and Colleen would have all the comics come in and sort of workshop the show. Emo Phillips gave me ideas that I don't use. That was really cool. You should wear glasses and sing Buddy Holly songs. Like, thanks, Emo. You're a genius. But one bit that is still in the show was taught to me by Jay. He said, hey, fucker, did you, because he used to affectionately call me that. It was a term of endearment, I hope. He said, did you know that, I'm a John Wayne fan? I'm like, well, look at you. Yeah, I figured that, or a Hell's Angels fan. And he said, no, one of my favorite movies was The Searchers, the John Wayne movie. And I'm like, yeah, Buddy Holly watched. He's like, guys, let me tell the story, fucker. And I'm like, all right. And he said, it was his favorite. Buddy Holly saw that movie 13 times. He was walking home from that movie and said to his buddy, we should write a song, called That'll Be the Day. And he was like, that'll be the day. And so I'm going to play this song in honor of my friend, Gent, brother, you fucker. kind of hard to sing and not cry and stuff. Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. Yes, that'll be the day when you make me cry. How you say you're gonna leave, you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die. Hell, you give me all your loving and your hurt loving, all your hugs and kisses and your money too. Hell, you say you hold me, baby, until you tell me maybe that someday, well, I'll be through. And that'll be the day when you say goodbye. Yes, that'll be the day when you make me cry. You say you're gonna leave, you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die. Cupid shot his dart, shot it at your heart. So if we ever part and I leave you, well, you sit and hold me and you tell me boldly, baby, that someday, well, I'll be through. And that'll be the day when you say goodbye. Yes, that'll be the day when you make me cry. You say you're gonna leave, no, it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day when I die. Well, that'll be the day. Oh, that'll be the day. Yeah, that'll be the day. Oh, that'll be the day, yeah. Just one more, Willie.
I didn't know it wasn't on the notes.
That's all right. Colleen also wanted me to mention that though this show is lightly attended, the X-rated memorial service is sold out. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, oh, let it be. You know there's gonna be an answer, let it be. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine on till tomorrow, let it be. Wake up to the sound of music and Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, yeah, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, yeah, let it be. You know there's gonna be no sorrow, let it be.
Very nice, Billy. Yeah, it's funny, that picture of Jen out there, the first one where you see we had the long hair like that, that's when I met him. He looked like that. I thought, at first, when I very first met him, I thought he was kind of a semi-attractive lesbian. I didn't know it, but many of the comics and club managers and staff were not able to get to Omaha today, but wanted to share some thoughts. So statements will be read by his friends, Aaron Hammonds and Lewis Taylor, followed by a video tribute from Sean Gannant and Mark Gross.
My name is Aaron Hammonds, and I guess I'm not one of the lucky ones because some of you have known Jace for decades, and I only knew him for about 6 years. The first time that we met, he hypnotized me in Des Moines. I was a ratty pain in the ass of an 18-year-old who had managed to get into the club. Sorry, Colleen. And I had the most ridiculous Hot Topic belt on, and I went up to get hypnotized, and he took one look at me, and before he could even make a joke, you see him playing people on stage, he just laughed. And I felt really silly on stage. I continued to feel silly the rest of the night, but I kept going back. It was the kind of amusing punishment that allowed me to keep going there. And when I moved to Omaha, I'm in the Air Force now, and I saw him again, he still remembered that day. We became brothers in charity. You hear a lot of people talking about the way that he has influenced their lives, and that's one thing I can say is that Jay is a man of tremendous gravity. You couldn't help but be pulled into him and the things that he had to offer to his family, to his friends, to comics, and to people at Pine Ridge. So he's the reason that I decided to start a charity and run raising money for them. But in addition to all of that, I don't ever think that Jay understood how big of a deal he was. And we'd go out to lunch or whatever, and someone would offer to buy him food. And he'd go out to Don and Millie's, and it'd be some cheeseburgers, and someone would come skittering up and say, "Oh my God, your Jay Medicine hat, let me get that for you." And he would take him a minute to realize that. And there was a time that he had the chance to come onto the Air Force Base, and we took him onto the flight line. And everybody there had seen the hundreds of shows and done those things, and he didn't want to talk about Jay. He wanted to know what that button on the plane did, or where does that door go, or what is your job? What kind of wrench is that? And it infuriated everybody there, but that was just the way that it was. He once bet me $100 that I could not ask him a question about Wounded Knee that he couldn't answer. And Jay had a very fickle relationship with technology, but despite Wikipedia and Google and the full force of the internet, that is $100 that I will never see. But just as he shared so much with me, he also shared things with people from around the country, and these are their messages. From Rick Bruner, the general manager of the Virginia Beach Funny Bone. The Virginia Beach Funny Bone mourns the loss of Jay Medicine Hat. He will be missed by everyone in our community. No performer has ever had the impact as Jay had on the Virginia Beach Funny Bone stage. We've lost a man who was more than just a comedian. He was a friend. Often Jay would spend his days in Virginia Beach with guests he met at last night's show. He made friends effortlessly here, and oftentimes long-lasting. He enriched many people's lives and embarrassed many more. He could tell some of the best stories you would ever hear. And often people who saw him perform got plenty of their own stories to tell. Stories that would border on the unbelievable. I have plenty of stories about Jay. Most can't be shared here today. But the one that I would like to is this. When I got married, I asked the man performing the ceremony how much I needed to pay him for his services. The man replied he didn't want any money. He wanted 2 tickets to the club, tickets to see Jay Medicine Hat. I asked the man if he was serious, if he was sure that that's all that he wanted, and he said, "Yes, that's all I want." My wife and I, we love that guy. I got to pay for my wedding ceremony with 2 tickets to see Jay Medicine Hat. This is the type of following that Jay had in every community he played in, a following that will be remembered for a very long time. So Jay, we will miss your stories, we will miss your laugh, but most of all, we will miss our friend. Thanks for the stories, thanks for the laugh, and most of all, thanks for the love. Rick Bruner. The second comes from Dave Stroop of Columbus. He's the general manager of the club there and famously a man of few words. The Columbus community embraced and endeared him. I'm not very good at saying goodbyes, but J. Medicine Hat was a great friend to our club. He was a once-in-a-lifetime character that I got to hang out with for a little while, not long enough. We will miss J. Medicine Hat. And from Luke Pridgeon of the Orlando Improv. In the comedy club business, we have a unique relationship with the entertainers who fill our stage. Most of them are people you see every year or so, like family at Christmas, but because of the nature of the J. Medicine Hat experience, many of us got to see him 4 or more weeks each year. For a few of us, this made him like family. I met Jen 11 years ago at High Point, North Carolina. I was new to the comedy business, and I have to admit, I was a little intimidated by Hat. At this point, I knew him by reputation alone. Big guy, long hair, tattooed, swears like a sailor, smokes like a chimney, drinks Jack like a fish. Colleen Quinn flew in from Omaha to help ease the transition by making sure we had everything set up and to introduce the two of us. By the end of that week, we'd hit it off and already begun our friendship. As our relationship developed over time, we made it a point to have a meal together every time he was in town. At first, just us, then with my wife, and then with my kids as they came along. Not a month went by when my daughter didn't ask me when the scary guy with the long hair and pictures on his arms was going to come have lunch with us. Hat was always on his best behavior, but we still had to remind the kids that they shouldn't repeat some of the new words that slipped in here and there. I was always fascinated by Gent and his stories. Over the years, I found myself anticipating his arrival more and more so I could hear the latest tales of the characters he had brought to life in his own unique way. Whether it was Big Vic, the Hell's Angel, his daughter barrel riding, road stories from clubs, or even his personal history from his days at the slaughterhouse from Wounded Knee, Jay was always entertaining. Most of you come as fans of J. Medicine Hat, the performer, a man who provided countless thousands with laughs, amazement, and probably a great deal of embarrassment as well. He had a way of connecting with the audience, and he left us at the top of his game. I've had the opportunity to work with several hypnotists over the years, but there was something about Hat that was just different. Maybe it was the persona he built, the rock and roll feel, or the boundaries he pushed. But if there were a comedy hypnotist hall of fame, I'm sure J. Medicine Hat would be inducted as an all-star. I'll never pass a school bus on the highway or watch goddamn kids playing in my yard without a fond memory of Gent. My sincerest condolences to his family, Luke Pridgeon of the Orlando Improv.
Hello, my name is Lewis Taylor, and I worked at the early version of the Funny Bone and was fortunate enough to know the early version of J. Medicine Hat, also known as Gent Monk. It was truly my pleasure to have taken part in watching the transformation of him into what we know of him today, but also the other side of him. So I'm going to read some more statements that really tell us how these other people feel. This is from Mitch Kutash, the president of Funny Bone Incorporated. Let's turn back the clock for just a second to the spring of 1994. I just received a call from the general manager of the Des Moines Funny Bone, and he suggested to me that Omaha consider booking a novelty act to be used in the club. He explains to me that he's been booking a hypnotist by the name of Gent Monk, AKA J. Medicine Hat, for after-prom parties in and around the Des Moines area, so he convinces me to try him in Omaha. With great hesitation, I take his word and book him. And who would have known then that Hat would go on to become the single most popular act, not only in Omaha, but throughout many of the clubs that I own. Hat performed well over 2,500 shows at various clubs that I own, and I, along with many of our patrons, as well as our employees, are going to miss this crazy Indian more than I could possibly describe. I know you are now in a better place, Hat, entertaining as only you know how. Thanks for the years of laughter and joy you brought to close to 1 million people that had the unique pleasure of watching you perform. This next one is from comedian John Paul Morgan. John Paul Morgan, also a guest on the TNT Radio Empire, quite entertaining to listen to. I'm going to have to slow his roll down because he moves a little faster in order to get the true impact of his heartfelt words across. For the majority of people sitting in this room today, you are aware of J. Medicine Hat, the character. I am among men most richly blessed to have known Gent Monk, the person. My talks with him were not centered around business. They were not focused on comedy, nor were they about economics. Rather, they were about the stories of our family and the earnest desire to know how each of our own were doing. These are the times that I will miss. A fellow compadre in this business who was not to speak of business, but rather of family. Now, I must say, Jay and I shared more than just the family God had given us, but rather we shared friends who we considered family. It was the knowledge that everyone was doing fine that would bring a smile upon Jay's face. And I know that I am a far greater man because I knew Gent Monk. I'm a far better father because he told me what not to do. I'm a greater comedian because each hand I shook, he said, would be mine forever. He believed that the human touch brought us closer in this mundane world. My name is John Paul Morgan, and I am blessed to have known the Hat. I was trying to think of something that would encapsulate it in my own words, as good as the things that I'd been seeing throughout the many the radio shows, the Facebook pages, all the memorials that have been going on, and all the things that people have said. And you know, I think back, like many of you that worked at the club, you see 200, 300, 500 shows. There's so many bits, so many memories, so much craziness, both good and sometimes a little shaky. But when I read something from Colleen Quinn's son, Daniel, who again was introduced to Jen as a child, as a 9-year-old, at the same time that I met him as well, it really just wrapped up everything I thought, and I asked Colleen's permission so that I could read this. And this, to me, sums it up. I knew Jay for over 22 years. It's sorrowful to think that he will never again grace the Funny Bone stage and that his raspy cackle will no longer ring through its halls. Over that amount of time, I was able to see different sides of the man. There's no doubt he was every bit the jack-drinking, motorcycle-riding badass that he portrayed on stage. This was not an affectation, but rather the scars of his life worn with honesty and at times self-reflective sorrow. There was also another side, a part of him that glimmered in unexpected ways through mundane interaction and surprisingly poignant moments. This was his compassionate core. More than most, he understood the depths of the human struggle and was never shy about his own demons. What is both remarkable and commendable is that he could turn his pain into love. Love for his family, love for his comedy club brothers and sisters, and all those that he entertained throughout the years. In his own strange way, he lived a life of service, finding no greater joy than the laughter of his hat heads. Much love to you, Jay, Firewater Saint. And although I could try to give you the words of Larry the Cable Guy, I thought that instead we would bring up someone that has a much better Larry the Cable Guy inflection. Please welcome Donnie Dodge to the stage.
I got a fever, and the prescription is more Indian drums. Jay loved that impression. It was never funny. It was never intended to be funny. He would actually, when I was working the door for a while at the old Funny Bone, he would just drag me up there, and he'd say, I want everybody to hear this impression. And I'd say, Jay, it's not funny. I don't really have any material. He'd say, I don't care. I just want to hear it. So, we're going to put some lipstick on this pig. We're going to make it shine. For Jay, I got 10 people up here. I'll be lucky if we get 4. And if you're not quiet, I'll walk out these doors and you sons of bitches won't even get your money back. All right, thank you. No, you don't have to clap. That was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. You don't have to clap. If you weren't at a memorial show, you would probably have left by now. This is a statement given to me moments ago from a good friend of Jay, Larry the Cable Guy. Sir, I'm not upset that Jay's gone because I know he's in a better place. I'm actually more upset that I was reading ahead in the program and there's going to be a video presentation from Sean Gannett, and if it sucks as bad as his act, we can't leave. J. Madison Hatt lived his days fully. He was a great comic. Lord, he was a great comic. We always had a good time together hanging out at the Husker games, some of which we won. Or just hanging out at the house with Jeff Foxworthy. We'd laugh and we'd talk about the crazy life on the road. Lord, he had some crazy times. Jay, I'm gonna miss you. Brother, you got her done.
Late at night, and you're sleeping, you'll hear my lonesome call, and you'll feel my waiting lips, barely touching you at all. But it's only as real as any dream can see. I'll see you in your wildest dream. 1,000 miles, though I may be now, I'm before you on my knee. But 1,000,000 miles can't erase the love you have for me. 1,000,000 miles it seems, but you can feel my love light beam. I'll see you in your wildest dreams. I'll see you. You'll see me as though I were real. I'll see you. You'll see me as though you can feel my breath on your neck, the touch of my hand. You'll awaken a room of steam. I'll see you in your wildest dreams.
They're available for children's shows. In case anybody. Well, just like the Omaha Funny Bone was his home, Z92 and the Todd and Tyler radio empire was his therapy. Welcome three of the inmates, Craig Evans, Big P, and Petey Mac.
I guess since I made it up here first, I have to speak first. First of all, there have been some amazingly profound and touching things said here today, and I would really like to thank Gross and Gannett for lowering the bar. Because if you're expecting profound and touching out of the three of us, I think you're going to be disappointed. I just figured I'd share a few of the little hat memories that I have that were specific to what I did with him. One of the things that I do for the show is I answer the phones every morning. And if you've ever heard the show, you know that some of those calls aren't exactly what you'd call quality. So it can get a bit tedious. Donnie, you know what I'm talking about. So whenever I would pick up that phone, I'd see the line ring, and I'd pick it up, and I'd hear, "Hey, boss, it's Jay." I go, "Oh, finally. Just one." Every now and then you want one. And I could just put it through and know that no matter what was going on, no matter how bad the day had been, at least there were some good belly laughs coming because Jay had called. And yeah, that's nice. One of the other things that I do for the show is I schedule guests. And I've been at this for 5.5, 6 years now, and it took me all of about 14 minutes into the gig to understand that there was absolutely no point in trying to schedule when Jay was going to show up. Like Colleen said, you know, sometimes he was there 2 days, sometimes he was there 4 or 5 days, and he would show up whenever he showed up. He would call and say, "Hey, I'm out front." I'd go out and get him, and normally he would show up when Petey was doing sports or when Trav was doing sports, and that meant he'd sit there for a half an hour and say absolutely nothing. And many people have referenced Jay's laugh. We all know that laugh. It is ingrained in our head, and we all loved hearing it, but I wore a special badge of honor anytime I could make Jay laugh. You know, making that man laugh is something that you should be proud of, especially if you got him into that coughing, hacking, can't breathe kind of, you know, everybody knows what I'm talking about. You've seen it, you know it. It was amazing, and it was something special if you could make him laugh. And if nothing else, I always cherish the fact that Jay was good for making sure that our delay system was still working. You always knew that thing needed to be working when Jay was showing up. So I know that he would be touched by this. I don't know if he ever really grasped how many people's lives he touched and the impact that he made, but I hope that he did. Thank you very much.
So I first met Jay, I don't know, 18, 19 years ago when he came up to the show. And for several days now and for some time now, I've been thinking about all the times that he made me laugh and giggle and you know, to the point of crying, and would make fun of me in one way or another, laugh about what I was doing even though I wasn't paying any attention to what was going on at the show or anything like that. And then during the commercial breaks, we would go outside. And this is the thing that keeps coming back to me, is, you know, we all know the stories that he would tell on the air. They were all great and made us laugh. And we'd go outside, you know, during the commercial breaks, and he'd tell us a couple of more of those. But many times he would talk about his family. And that's the thing that I kept remembering in this time when we were thinking about Jay. And I kept remembering the stories, and not so much the stories, but the way that you could tell he felt about his family. An exceedingly sensitive man. You could tell from even the stories he told on the air, some funny, some very serious, about things that were near and dear to his heart. Very sensitive man, and when he talked about his family, he spoke more softly. And he was very kind and gentle and loved his family very, very much, so dear to him. And my children got to meet Jay a couple of times. And they were in awe of this crazy Indian. Holy cow. And not only were they in awe of him, they also loved him dearly because of the way that he would talk to them, because of the way he would take time for them. And I think many of us remember those types of things about Jay, and we thank him very much, and we thank you very much for letting us be a part of this.
I got to know Jay at the Funny Bone. He had no clue who I was. I was a fan of his long before I ever got to meet him. It was very cool to get the chance to meet him. And the reason I remember wanting to go back is because his show was always different. And, you know, his quick wit with what was going on around him and the way he kept it together, to me, was amazing. And I think everyone's mentioned his laugh, and that was the main reason I would go back to Funny Bone shows, because what comedians get to laugh hysterically at themselves or what was happening in their show, and Jay did multiple times every show. And to me, that is what made Jay so fascinating, is that he found a niche in a tough thing to find a niche, and he owned it, and he owned it. And I'll never forget when he put the mic behind his back to laugh, because he'd be laughing so hard, or coughing from the cigarettes, one of the two. But he put that mic behind his back. I don't know how many shows I saw. A lot of people in his shoes who had owned a niche that they were trying to carve out would probably lose touch with reality, and Jay definitely never did. One of the most grounded people I've been fortunate enough to meet, and he had this way of making you feel like you were his friend, and not a lot of people have that capacity in 2 or 3 meetings to all of a sudden feel like, I think that guy likes me. I think he thinks people are right. And you could tell from all the people who continually, as Colleen said off air one day, this is going to be a never-ending funeral. And you have to remember that these are people who are lighting candles of love for Jay. And I think it speaks to how memorable a person Jay Gent Monk is and was. I'll always remember his laugh. I only did 1 shot of Jack Daniels with him somehow. He used to come in the mornings and sometimes have some, and I'd kind of want some. But I know moving forward, I don't often drink Jack Daniels, but when I do, I'll just have a little, because the rest will always be for my friend, Jay Medicine Hat.
Nice job. They look a lot different in the radio station. If you go in the morning, usually they're naked with ball caps on. So it's a much better look for all of them. His latest venture, Ask Hat, where he answered real questions from real fans. It was a favorite YouTube video of his mother Bonnie and sister Angie. So let's roll Ask Hat.
Welcome to the first installment of Ask Hat. We asked fans around the country what they wanted to know about the king of hypno-comedy, about his show, about his life, about his criminal record. We caught up with him at Viking Tattoo in Omaha, Nebraska, getting some new ink.
Hi, I'm Jay Medicine Hat. I'm at Viking Tattoo, and this is the first installment of Ask Hat. I don't know who the hell came up with that fucking name. Sounds like Ass Hat. That's what it sounds like to me. What's the first question today?
Question number 1 comes from Denise in Virginia Beach.
Love Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach, you're on the line. Go ahead.
Is it real?
Is it real? You talking about hypnosis?
Yes.
Yeah, I had lunch today with Bigfoot, and we were talking about it. Of course it's real. Nobody questions a clinical hypnotherapist about their business, but it seems to be that it's always questioned when it's in a live stage situation. It's always got to be fake. I've done terrible things to great people, so I know it's real.
from Blair, Nebraska would like to know, have you ever been hypnotized?
I've been hypnotized twice. When I was doing my training, I had to go through it. I wanted to see what it felt like, how it felt to be hypnotized, what it felt to be under that state for 45 minutes to an hour, and also what it felt like to be taken advantage of.
Alan from Ashland, Nebraska.
They have no internet service. How'd he fucking get on this thing?
How do you maintain your composure and still handle the belligerent drunks professionally?
You know, only an asshole would ask a question like that.
Stella from Ohio.
Stella!
Are you having fun?
I'm always having fun. This is a picnic. I used to work in a slaughterhouse, cutting cow buttholes out for a living. This is a rock and roll job. I mean, look at that. Look at where I'm at right now. Getting a tattoo. I travel with my own bass player. I've got rockabilly chicks all around, hot rods out front. This is the dream come true. I'm living the American Indian dream right here.
Boxers or briefs?
I wear boxer briefs except on Easter. And I wear a pink thong for my chocolate nuts.
Dan from Richmond, Virginia wants to know who or what has influenced you as a person and who influenced you as a comedian or performer?
Person-wise, I mean, who I am, my father, of course, and my first boss, Lou Murray, from up in Sioux City. Been influenced a lot by other comics that I've worked with, Seinfeld, Miller, Kinnison, and actors. You'll notice if you watch my show, there's a lot of lines that I use or inflections of my favorite actors, Robert Duvall, John Wayne, Lee Marvin. You'll notice I picked up some of their inflections in their voices and lines out of various movies. I'm a stealer. That's what I am, basically.
If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
That's probably a pretty easy question. I bet I'd be pushing cattle, be a cowboy. If I wasn't doing this, I know that sounds crazy.
Wait a minute. The Indian wants to be a cowboy?
Oh, you got the land. Just let me have a job, please. That's all I want.
My God, he was insanely funny. Well, anyway, no memorial to Jay Medicine Hat in Omaha is complete without his brothers, Todd and Tyler. Come on up, guys.
Well, Jay would love that I'm hungover. And I am. We didn't rehearse anything. I wrote a few things down. I'll talk, and then I'll let Todd say a few things. In 1993, we moved here, and we met Jay like a week later, maybe. We were the same age, different histories, same habits. That made us pretty close right away.
Some of the history was similar.
The habit part, right, exactly. Jay would always, people would always ask me and Todd why we never got hypnotized. And I would say, you fucking kidding me. I've seen Jay. Jay knows too much about me and Todd. It would have been...
I think everyone in this room understands. Yeah.
He always, Puss mentioned earlier, Big P mentioned earlier that about the delay. And if you sit in the studio with us, to my right hand is the delay. And it would sit there, and Craig sees it, and Craig once in a while, if he'd hear an F-bomb or something like that, he'd point to me, and I'd do that. But with Jay, my hand was there the whole fucking time. and a lot of times it wasn't swear words, really. It was just stuff. He would just talk, and he was talking, because our conversation was seamless, off the air to on the air. So it'd be like, you know, so somebody's doing this, and I'm like, I know we're in mixed companies, so a lot of it was really horrible stuff. But he would just start talking, and then he would just forget we're on the air. And I'd go, did he just tell that story on the air? And then I had about 10 seconds to realize I had to cut it. I'd look, and Craig would give me a look, and Puss would look through the window, and Todd wouldn't look at me. And, and I would just hit it real quick. I go, holy shit, I can hit that. I didn't say it in my head. I might have said holy shit. I don't know. I swore a bunch of times with Jay, too. But I got one story I want to finish with real quickly. Last spring, I stopped by the Funny Bone. Everybody knows that Jay, it was a volatile show, and he used to get pissed off all the time. So I walk in, I'm standing with my wife in the corner, and Jay goes, good thing you're here, Tyler, because this is my last goddamn show at the Funny Bone. And I look around, I find Colleen or something. He goes, oh yeah, he's pissed off, something. The problem was, it was my last show with Jay at the Funny Bone. I love you, brother.
My son reminded me of the first time that he ever met Jay. It was a Sunday afternoon at the old Funny Bone teenage show. He's 11, 12 at the time. Comes in right before the show and sits down. I introduced Jay. This is my son, Ryan. And Jay looks at Ryan and says, you big an asshole as your old man?
Yes.
To which to my son's credit, he replies, bigger, and made Jay laugh. One of his proudest moments.
We did some great radio together, and we're going to miss Jay so much.
He was just a genuine human being, on and off the air, and it's so rare to run across. And as a guest on the air, he was great. As a friend, he was great. And Colleen was correct. This funeral's gone on longer than Reagan's. But we love you, buddy. And every 6 weeks when we'd see that card, we always looked forward to.
It was easy. It was easy when Jay was there. He was there Monday through Friday. You never knew when he would sneak in, and he would always say, you bastards.
Yes, sons of bitches. Often referred to us as that. And I know a lot of you are saying, Jay's in a better place right now, and call me selfish. I want him here. I want him right here with us now.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Couldn't have been said any better. In the days following Jay's untimely passing, Moody Bloody Moons from Pine Ridge was moved to write this song to honor Jay Medicine Hat.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. Thank you guys very much. Well, if you had not had a chance to express your thoughts to our friend Jay Medicine Hat, please stop by the tree of 1,000 thanks and do this so back there. This was a special gathering of love to our friend Jay Medicine Hat, and thank you all for being here at Jay's sold-out show. You may join us at the Funny Bone patio in an hour for food, laughs, and what else? A special on Jack Daniels. So, rest in peace, Jay Medicine Hat. Thank you.